So today we are going to make a straight-sided pillow. I am using the straight-sided pillow Trio Large. I'm going to make the smallest of the cavities. And so you want to start by heating your mandrel up just like normal and getting the footprint is critical, and you want there to be a nice, in order to get the nice bead end. So you want to lay the glass in a little tube, because what we're doing is we're making a square, and glass doesn't really want to be square, it wants to be round. So we need to give it a little focus in that direction. So we are going to make a little tube bead that is slightly more narrow than the press is wide. So we're going to make it a little more narrow than the press is wide, and it doesn't have to have a smooth surface on it. It's mainly just that we've got that basic shape, but if you wanted to even things out a little bit, because part of mine is higher and part of it is lower, you can just use your press as a marver. And we're going to heat that up, and we want to add glass to the tube without changing the shape. Until we have it about a millimeter extra space all the way around compared to the cavity. So I'll show you that in just a second, and I think we're going to be all set with this one last wrap. And I often have the press in my hand so that I can use it as a marver and to judge how much glass I have. So again, I'm just going to marver that tube. I'm going to look, and yes, there's about a millimeter space all the way around that bead. So that should be about enough glass, and I will also show you how to add a little glass as well as take some away. So I'm going to heat the glass again, and I'm going to lay it in the cavity and make sure my Z's are matching, and I'm going to press. So as you can see, wasn't quite enough glass here. So one of the things that you can do, if it was closer to the right amount but still a little low, you could heat the whole thing and press again, and that can help it to move into the corners. I know this is lacking a little too much to do that. So what I do is I heat the glass and I make a dot on the face. So some people assume, well, it's a little low in the corner, so I'm going to put a little dot here, or I'm going to pull a stringer and I'm going to try and add a little bit of glass so I don't get too much. That is futility at its finest, because the press was designed to do a job, and that is to push the glass from the center down and out, and we want to fill in the corners, and what we want to do is get the press to do the work for us. So I'm going to add glass to the face, and I'm going to heat the whole thing, not to the point that I'm losing the shape of the original pressing, but enough that I have some like plasticity and pliability in there. And I'm going to bring it over, and I'm going to lay it in the cavity again. And so now we're getting closer. So heat that whole thing up. I could do the same dot system again. And I'm not going to have a problem with the glass going outside the cavity, which is where the problem comes in if you try and add glass by doing the little dots on the corners, because you'll probably get too much glass in the corner for the shape of the press. And now you've got a little lip, and then you have to fight to try and get the glass back into the press. So we're going to avoid all of that simply by staying in the center when we're adding glass. So again, I'm heating the whole thing enough to make it so it will move, laying it in the press. Okay, and now we're closer here. So I'm going to heat the whole thing up one more time because like I had said before, sometimes all you really need is a little more heat because the glass wants to be round. We're trying to convince it to be square. The press is cold. It's cooling the glass as it's moving. So there's just a lot of physics working against you when you're dealing with a square shape. So sometimes it requires multiple pressings even though you have enough glass. And this is the case now because I have nice sharp corners. And so I'm going to heat the face because I've got some chill marks. Chill marks are normal when you're dealing with a press because you're taking the hot glass, you're sticking that into a colder press, and so there's a reaction to the glass. But what's really great is once you sort of go and you do your fire polishing, which is what this is called, and just flashing it back in the flame, well, sometimes you start to lose the corners again. So you may want to go back in and press one last time to get it really crisp. And when you do, you may not get any chill marks, and if you do, they're going to be really subtle because the glass was not nearly as hot when it went in the second time. So that is how you would do it if you needed to add glass. And so this is what we have. It's beautiful. You can see the doming and sort of facet on the surface, and you can see the nice crisp edges. So very nice. Now, the same concept happens. I'm going to take this a little further. The same, and I'm in a studio that's extremely cold, so I should probably have heated that glass a little slower, but here I'm going to add too much glass so I can show you how to recover from that as well. So add a little more glass here and a little more glass here. And again, I'm going to heat it all up so I can press and hopefully create a difficult situation to get out of. Lay that in, bring that down. Oh, the press isn't coming together all the way, so now I'm getting kind of, it's not even pressed all the way, and I'm getting kind of little edges on sort of divots there. So I know this is not a good situation. So what I can do is sometimes if you have just a little bit too much glass, you can again heat the whole thing, gently press, and it will redistribute enough glass. So we're going to try that here, but this has definitely made a much thicker bead than we had before. But the surface face will still be the same, so within reason you can get away with that. But no, we still have some divots or little lips happening on the edge. So again, a lot of times people would be prone to try and pull the glass off here, off the edge here, because that's where there's too much glass, especially if you have a more pronounced lip. And what I would recommend is instead you bring it back out of the center of the glass, of the shape. And you like to do it evenly on both sides, so we added dots of glass to both sides. We're also gonna, I'm really working this one teeny tiny little bead, and it's starting, the bead release is starting to say, yeah, right. But you kind of get the point. So when you pull the glass out of the center, again, you're creating an environment where you're kind of sucking everything back into the center, so the outside edge of the bead became smaller as we pulled as well. So when we heat this back up one more time and lay that in the press one more time, we're back to a nice crisp shape with nice crisp edges. And again, we can sort of fire polish the center here, and then we would add their decorations if we were doing raised decorations and whatnot. But it's just a gentle fire polish, and now we've got smooth surfaces. We still have the facets showing, and we have a nice crisp edge. And that is how you make a straight-sided pillow, so a square shape that has the glass just perfect, not quite enough, and a glass a little bit too much. So thank you, and have a beautiful night.